everybody. I would like to call to order the regular meeting of the Parks and Recreation Commission for Wednesday, May 28th, 2025. May I have the roll call, please?
Chair McGill,
Present.
Vice Chair Clark, Commissioner Aldana, Commissioner Lesnar-Buxton, Commissioner Nielsen,
Present.
Commissioner Price,
Present.
Commissioner Ramsey.
Present.
All right, thank you very much. Do we have any changes to the agenda?
Chair McGill and Commissioners, I recommend that we move the advisory committee interview up to number 5. Move it up one item since we have the candidate here already.
Okay, so we just move it up to before the director's report?
Yes, right
Okay,
after trees.
Okay. When
Yes.
we get there, as I'll be rattling through, just remind me. I'm fine with that. Okay, thanks. I did not see any written public comment come through. Is there anything that we've missed? Okay. That takes us to public comment. Any member of the public may address the commission for up to 2 minutes on any subject within the jurisdiction of the commission that is not scheduled for a public discussion before the commission. The total amount of time for public comment will be 15 minutes. Those of you who are here for a tree item or an agenda item will call on that when we get to that item. So this is for non-agenda items only. I don't have any speaker slips. Is there anybody online?
Chair McGill, we do have someone online. I believe she is here for agenda item 4A1, Heidi Jones. I don't see her hand raised, so I'm...
Yeah, that's the name attached to 4A1, so yeah. Okay, then that takes us to the Commissioner Committee assignment reports. I think I'll start on my right with Commissioner Ramsey.
I have nothing to report.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Price?
Off week, nothing to report.
For Youth Council, I just wanted to share that their meeting for June 2nd is canceled. They'll have one more meeting before the end of their term, then we'll see the new Youth Council members start in July. So they're wrapping up their final term. A lot of the kids are moving on to college and doing their end of the year events and wrapping up their period. So things are good in Youth Council. They have one set of meeting minutes to post from the prior meeting, and then we'll get a good update for our next meeting after they do their June session.
Great, okay, thank you. And let's see, as far as mine, we did have a Park Foundation meeting, and really mostly progressing the bandshell performance. And we had the first bandshell performance over the weekend, so that program is up and running, and we're booking additional ones, so watch this space. So that's kind of exciting. And then we also had a De La Guerra Plaza Revitalization Arts and Culture Subcommittee meeting, where we're really continuing to work how we go forward, kind of on a granular method, how we go out for quotes and proposals for the public art space in De La Guerra Plaza. And that's that.
Commissioner, I did want to add on the performance of the bandshell. I went to the Bob Baker marionette show. It was fantastic,
Yay.
and I highly recommend it. Well done pulling that together.
Yay. Yeah, it's fun. It's fun to see that being used that way. Then in terms of commission and staff communications, anything to report there?
Nothing to report.
Okay, thanks. Ceremonial items?
Chair and Commissioners, I am very pleased to recognize Kevin Strausberg for 20 years of service this month. Kevin has been a key member of our very small project management team for many years, currently serving as a project engineer. He's worked on and led countless projects throughout our parks. I wouldn't be surprised if he told me that he has worked on something in every park that has something in it. So he's worked on things big and small, many projects that might be very small, fences and gates, stairs, roofing projects, door projects, larger projects, including playground installations, restroom rehabilitations, and then much larger projects. He's been a important person on the team for many large-scale park renovations and facility rehabs, including Eastside Neighborhood Park, Cabrillo Pavilion. I could keep going on, but I'll just say he's someone who really clearly loves his job, and it kind of shows every day in the work that he does, and we're very grateful to have him on the team.
Great. Yeah, well, thanks, and congratulations to Kevin. Part of a small but mighty team that, really is passionate about, as we all know, getting things done as efficiently as possible. All right. That takes us to the consent items. We have the summary of council actions. I thought it was just really exciting that there were so many actions associated with getting going on Dwight Murphy. That was just, a real, that's just a real milestone. It's really exciting. All right. Assuming there are no questions or further comments on the council actions, that brings us to the minutes of the last meeting, with the recommendation being that the commission waive the reading and approve the minutes of the regular meeting of April 23rd, 2025. And Commissioner Price?
No.
I see. Oh, that must have been the last one.
It was left over, but I will make the motion to approve.
Okay.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. I'm going to assume there's no discussion, and we can go straight to a vote. Okay, thank you very much. And that takes us to the trees. Welcome, Mr. Slack.
Good afternoon, Chair McGill and Commissioners. The first Street Tree Advisory Committee recommendation for review is the request to remove American Sweet Gum. This is a street tree located in the Parkway at 2310 Chapala Street. The applicant's requesting removal for, it's really comprehensive property improvements. They're building a brand new structure on the lot with the ADU. And the site plans that we included in the attachment showed essentially a relocation of a driveway onto the Chapala side, which is in direct conflict with the existing street tree. The committee reviewed the plans. We did a site visit. The tree was in fine shape. It's kind of destroyed everything around it. The curb and gutter and the sidewalk are in really bad shape. During the review, the committee determined that it was a reasonable and practical development of the property. The landscape plans that were also included with the application showed 3 replacement trees. So there will be 2 trees proposed on the Pueblo side of the property, and then a replacement tree further south on the Chapala side as well. The committee concurred that that was more than adequate mitigation, and again determined the tree removal made practical sense given the property improvements, and after review made a recommendation to approve the removal on the condition that the 3 trees as proposed in the landscape plan were planted.
Okay, thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Slack? Okay. I have one speaker slip, but I'm guessing that you would prefer that the person on Zoom goes first, or you may not even want to go at all, right?
If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Okay, so let's go to Zoom and see if the applicant wants to, Heidi Jones, wants to speak.
Heidi Jones, oh, yeah, she has her hands up. I'll call
Okay,
her.
great.
You may speak for a maximum of 2 minutes.
Good afternoon. Heidi Jones here, the agent for the applicant. Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can, thank you.
Great, thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Slack. Excellent presentation. It's not too complicated of a request. We're here to answer questions, and Laura Brady with Earthworm Design is in the audience, as you just heard. There's not a lot to say. I think Nathan covered it, but we're here for questions.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sure.
And Ms. Brady, you said the same thing? All right. With that, given that there's been resounding silence, I'm going to guess that there's not a ton of discussion to be had, so I'll open it up for discussion and, or a motion as appropriate. Going once. Commissioner Price.
Well, I like the fact that it was approved unanimously, and I think it meets one of the criteria for removal. So I would like to motion that the finding is a reasonable and practical development of the property on which the tree is located that requires removal of the tree or trees whose removal is sought.
I'll second.
Oh, okay, we have a second with Commissioner Ramsey, thank you. I guess the only thing I would, and this is just for the avoidance of, for clarification, given it's a street tree, we don't actually need to do a reason, do we? One of the,
Chair McGill and Commissioners, that's correct. So technically with street trees, it's a little wonky, but the ordinance doesn't have findings. The review's a little different. So you don't have to identify a finding to support a street tree removal, but we've kind of taken to using consistent language. So that's kind of like just a driving rationale for the removal, but the motion doesn't have to contain a finding.
and then can I just, a question for clarity for the motion makers. When you make the motion to approve, is that predicated, like as the recommendation says, on the condition that the 3 replacement trees are planted?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Do we need to modify the motion?
Well, I mean, I think so. It's the,
Nathan's nodding.
as recommended, yes. Then I would like to modify the motion. Let's see, where is it? It would be conditional at that point. So it'd be a conditional approval that the 3 new street trees as proposed in the application are planted along with the removal.
Commissioner Ramsey, do you support the?
Yeah, I second this.
Okay, great. Now,
Thank you.
With no, unless there's any further discussion, we'll go ahead and go to a vote. And the motion passes. Thank you very much. Thank you. And that takes us to Broadmoor Plaza.
Chair McGill and Commissioners, the next item for review is a request to remove an African fern pine. This is located within the front setback of the property at 15 Broadmoor Plaza. The applicant's requesting removal of this tree primarily due to property damage. They also noted just the canopy overhang. If you were able to do a site visit, there is a chimney kind of immediately under the tree as well. But I think the biggest reason in communications with the manager of the property was just the damage to the hardscape in between the home and the garage. The committee looked at the tree. You know, it's a pretty healthy African fern pine. It's definitely not planted in a great location. That was, you know, that was consensus from the committee in terms of its general location. Some of the members had the opportunity to go inside. One of the tenants was there, so brought them inside so they could see the actual damage that was reported. There were some supplemental photos that the property manager also provided as well. You know, I think when we look at tree damage, the committee made comments that it's not like definitive, but it was pretty easy to like deduce that the tree was probably the culprit there. I think that there was general agreement that it was one of these maybe wrong tree and wrong place type of scenarios. There was agreement to support the removal based on just its location, the damage that it caused, and really kind of like the inability long-term to manage the disruption and the root pruning close to the tree and that sort of like cycle that we tend to get into. During discussions about whether a replacement tree was required, there was some differing opinions because there's 2 really nice weeping bottlebrush street trees that are kind of being suppressed by the existing fern pine. So there were some members didn't really feel that there was a great need for a replacement tree, whereas the majority of the members did comment that they felt a mitigation tree was required and that there was adequate space between the garage and the sidewalk to plant one. And so after pretty extensive discussion on the mitigation, the committee recommended that the commission could approve the removal on the condition that a replacement tree is planted that can achieve 25 feet in height at maturity. And they also recommended that the commission could use the finding that the principles of good forest management dictate the removal.
Okay, thank you. So basically, the replacement tree would go kind of in the foreground of where we're looking on the photo? Those are that's a podocarpus, isn't it? Or is that what those used to be called?
Chair McGill,
Yeah,
commissioners, that's correct, yeah. The DNA sequencing has gotten really complicated with tree names. They keep changing them all the time.
I need to tell the ones in my backyard that they're no longer podocarpus. But they're great trees, but that one, yeah, is in sort of a wonky spot. Any questions for Mr. Slack? All right. We have no speaker slips. Is there anybody online?
No, there's no one online.
Okay. With that, I will entertain discussion or a motion. Commissioner Nilsson?
I'm happy to share my thought process when we receive an application like this, that, we often get pointed to the property damage, and that seems a focal point of a lot of these applications. And I think we have to approve removal of these trees pretty judiciously and not get willy-nilly with it. And so for me, it made an impact. It carried weight that there was a replacement tree to go along with this one. And had that not been present, I would be less in favor of agreeing with the street tree committee. And that's kind of my reflections on this application thus far.
Thank you. Actually, I appreciate it. Sometimes it's good to know where people are coming from. Where I come from is too that knowing that people, when somebody went inside and actually saw the damage, because sometimes that can be, it's speculative where the damage comes from. All right, any other discussion or a motion? Well, in that case, I will make a motion that we conditionally approve the setback tree removal request at 15 Broadmoor Plaza of the African fern pine on the condition that a replacement tree is planted capable of achieving a height of 25 feet, and with the finding being that this is the principles of good forest management.
I would like to second that.
All right, thank you. So we have a motion and a second. Oh, out of rubble. Well, that's a land speed record. All right. Great, the motion passes, and now we're doing the street master plan trees.
And Chair McGill and commissioners, we promise a lot more next month.
Well, there's always payback.
Yeah. So the last two items are just street tree designation changes. Both of them are essentially our continued efforts to update some of the designations, and a lot of the focus revolves around the water efficient landscape standards that the city has. And so in this case, Del Oro Avenue had the Southern Magnolia, which is a pretty heavy water user, and it's kind of fallen out of favor, and Brazilian pepper, very similar rationale. So we reviewed the street. The parkways are pretty narrow. There's a lot of coastal pressure up there as well, so that was taken into consideration. The New Zealand Christmas tree is something that we see, commonly planted in the coastal area. It does extremely well. And then even the yew pine does perform really well too under coastal pressure. It's something we don't have a lot of, so we were trying to, build on the diversity challenge from the management plan as well. And so after discussion, the committee made a recommendation to change the street tree designation for all of Del Oro Avenue to the New Zealand Christmas tree and the yew pine.
Okay, thank you very much. Do we have any questions or discussion? Lump those two together. I have no speaker slips. Do we have anybody online?
There is no one online.
All right. In that case, I will entertain a motion. If somebody would like to make one. Oh, don't speak up at once. Commissioner
I
Price?
would like to motion to approve the street tree designation change, both of them.
Okay. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'd be happy to second.
Great. All right. Can we go to a vote?
Just to clarify, you're wanting to do both of them at the same time in one motion?
Oh, no, all, both Deloro, both trees.
Oh, excuse
Yeah,
me,
yeah,
thank
no,
you.
I don't think we can
Sorry,
do
no,
both.
Yeah, I didn't think so
designations.
either, so I was
Yeah,
like-
yeah.
My language specificity is lacking this evening.
Yeah. Okay, motion passes, and that takes us to our second one.
So Chair McGill and Commissioners, the last Street Tree Advisory Committee recommendation is also a designation change. This is Los Awajes Avenue, which is also kind of in the coastal zone. It's down sort of on the flatland along Cabrillo Boulevard. The previous designation was a cultivar of southern magnolia as well. It tends to get the tulip scale really bad that we've talked about, and also is a high water user. So we were looking for things that would function well in these narrow parkways, be more drought tolerant, and then, you know, kind of always increasing the biodiversity. So both of these species they occur in very limited numbers within the street tree population. So there was a lot of motivation to use both of these trees. And so after review, the committee made a recommendation to use African sumac and Revolfia for the street tree designation for all of Los Awajes Avenue.
Okay, thank you very much. So would you just like clump them as you plant them, or alternate, or how would that work? Or just depends, it comes up?
Chair McGill, Commissioners, I think a lot of it, the Revolfia can be a larger canopy tree. So a lot of times when we're designating them, we have sort of a medium or large canopy, or sort of maximizing whatever type of canopy we can have in a tree. And then there's usually one or two smaller species that give us more flexibility. So I think we would try to use the Revolfia as much as possible, because it really is very, very rare in town. There's a street up on the mesa called El Camino de la Luz, and that's pretty much the only place you can find them. And we'll have to go to great lengths to try to grow them, because you can't buy them in the nursery trade, but we would like to try to increase the usage of it more. So that would be our favorite tree, and then the sumac would just kind of fill in where necessary.
Oh, thank you. Oh, I'll have to go find that tree. All right, questions, discussion? There's no speaker slips. Is there anybody online?
No, there is no one online.
Okay, would anybody care to make a motion? If not, I will do it. I will move that we approve the street tree master plan designation change on, I'm not going to pronounce this street right, Aguajes Street Avenue, Los Aguajes Avenue to the African sumac and I'm not even going to get that one right either, Revolfia.
I'll second.
Try to pronounce it better. All right. We have a motion and a second. Shall we vote? All right, motion passes. Thank you very much. I guess we'll see you for a longer time next month. Oh, we are warned. All right, and so we're going to skip over the director's report for now and go to the advisory committee interview and appointment.
Correct.
Okay, so
Yes.
are you introducing, or do I just dive in, or how do you?
Chair McGill and Commissioners, we have one candidate here to interview for a vacant position on the Integrated Pest Management Committee, which is a committee of members appointed by this commission. This is out of cycle, but it's a vacancy that we've held for quite a while and have an interested community member who reached out and expressed interest, so we wanted to bring it as soon as possible.
Great. And I will let you come up and introduce, I assume it's you. Yes. Let you come up and introduce yourself, and if you just want to, just a couple of minutes of who you are, experience, why you're interested in participating, and you're welcome. Come on up.
Where do you want me to come up with here?
Oh, yes, yes. Yeah.
Hi,
Hi.
hello everybody. So my name is Aninda Ganguly, and I work at UCSB as an assistant project scientist. And I have more than 15 years of experience in studying insect biology and neurobiology in general. So I have always wanted to participate in community events and try to use my knowledge to help the community I'm living in. I wasn't aware of this position before, and like few months back, somebody in the university passed on this information, and I found it is a position where I can be to help the city and try to use my knowledge for practical purposes. So I initially wrote to Jasmine, and she asked me to appear in one of the meetings to take a look of how it goes, and I kind of liked that experience. So that's why I applied for this position.
Okay, thank you. I'm the liaison. I must have been the meeting that I missed, because I don't remember seeing you there. All right. Does anybody have any questions? Commissioner Nielsen?
Thank you for applying. I'm curious if there's anything interesting out of your 15 years of experience in the insect model systems that we might find interesting or fascinating as it's pertinent to the integrated pest management.
So there is this thing here that I haven't directly studied integrated pest management, but I have studied fruit fly model systems and mosquito model systems for a long time. And many of the principles that are used for integrated pest management have been born out of research in fruit flies. And then since fruit flies are also an insect, and they are one of the most used model system in insect biology, a lot of the like applications in insect pest management are relevant for fruit fly biology as well. So I feel that since I have a strong understanding of the biology of fruit flies and mosquitoes and insects in general, I think my knowledge can easily apply to integrated pest management. Thank you.
And then there's the scientific method, which you understand.
Yeah.
Yes. Commissioner Price?
Thank you. So you attended one of the meetings. Is there anything that really stood out to you about what's attractive to it? Anything that you would look to change, modify, update, contribute to from our current Integrated Pest Management Committee?
So last time when I was attending this meeting, there was, if I remember correctly, only one agenda. So there was this one restaurant or cafe near the sea beach who wanted to do fumigation to get rid of termites. And while I had the agenda, I went through like the literature that they communicated, and I looked at the chemicals that they're going to use, and what are the restrictions for that chemical, whether it is safe or not. And I could like frame up some questions in my mind regarding the safety precautions that needs to be taken. And I brought a couple of them up in the meeting, and they were addressed. So that was really helpful both for me because I could understand how this is applied in a real life setting. And I think I brought up these relevant questions in the meeting, which was helpful for everybody to understand the process that is going on.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Do we need a motion? I guess we need a motion. Okay. I thought you were sitting. Would somebody like to make a motion?
I'll move to accept the applicant to the Integrated Pest Management Committee after his interview with us.
I'll second it. Shall we Go ahead and vote. All right. Congratulations.
you.
Welcome to IPM, and thank you very much for being willing to contribute. Just the fact that you hit the ground asking questions and thinking about it shows that I think you're going to be a great addition to the committee.
Thank you for accepting my application.
So, thank you. All right, that takes us to the, and actually, now I do remember, I was there, because I remembered you being there and thinking, I don't know him. Director's report. Ms. LeBlanc.
Chair and Commissioners, I have several items that I'd like to share with you this month. The first is that we are all very, very excited to share that the Dwight Murphy Field construction project is just about to start. Monday, construction fencing will go up around the perimeter of the park so that our very long-awaited project can get moving. So the project will feature, as many of you know, a new lit artificial turf multi-sport field, as well as an expanded adult fitness facility, and Gwendolyn's Playground, which has been many years in the making, all abilities inclusive playground, as well as other park improvements at the park. So this project was made possible through a very wide array of funding sources, including the Gwendolyn Strong Foundation fundraising $6 million to put towards this, a little bit over $19 million in city funds, $1.5 million of federal community project funding that was secured by Congressman Salud Carbajal, and most recently, a $5 million pledge from Ty Warner. So with all of those funding sources, we were able to bring this project together, and we will be moving forward with it on Monday. We also, 2025, marks the 60th anniversary of the Arts and Crafts Show. In 1965, the Arts and Crafts Show started as a small volunteer event at De La Guerra Plaza and has since grown to be over 100 members on Cabrillo Boulevard every Sunday, as well as many Saturdays throughout the year around major holidays. So to mark this event, we held a special Mother's Day Saturday and Sunday show earlier this month with the free tote bag giveaways to really celebrate this occasion. And then finally, I'm excited to share that the Semana Nautica Summer Sports Festival is back again. This is a festival that has been held here in Santa Barbara in the waterfront since 1933, and it features a very large array of sporting events in and around the waterfront. Anything you could think of that you might be able to do in the water, on the sand, or in one of our sports facilities that's near the waterfront or in the waterfront area is somewhere that there might be an event happening. Competitions, fun runs, swimming events, volleyball, beach volleyball events. There's a huge array of activities that occur. Not every activity occurs in every year, as you can imagine. So the Semana Nautica website is the best place to look to find out exactly what's happening in this year. The events take place generally around the 4th of July, but I would say they can start or end a few weeks before or after that. It's free to observe any of these events, and information about how to participate would be on the website. And with that, I am available for any questions you may have.
All right, thank you very much. Really exciting report this month. I mean, they're always good, but this, there's some big stuff going on. That's great. Commissioner Nielsen and then Commissioner Price.
I'd love to hear a little bit more about how the Parks and Rec Department collaborates for the Summer Sports Festival and how you guys team up with them to bring that to life. other than just allowing them to host on the city property, I imagine is a big piece of that, and coordinating those. But could you elaborate a little bit more, Jasmine?
Yeah, Chair McGill and Commissioner Nielsen. Currently, 2 of the board members are Parks and Recreation employees, which I believe has been the case for quite a while. And we hold various partnership documents. Currently, it's a co-sponsorship agreement that kind of outline what the city does to support this. The majority of what the city does is supporting through use of the facilities, but there's also efforts to make sure, for water sports, city lifeguards are there. Part of the promotions come through the city's marketing efforts, and coordinating the logistics of the events is something that city employees assist with. But it is similar to a lot of the other special events that occur around the city, ultimately a nonprofit-run festival. So similar to Fiesta that occurs in August, Earth Day, which we just occurred. I'm suddenly blanking on any
Fourth of
name
July.
Thank you.
4th of July is one?
No, 4th of July actually is fully city-run event.
Okay.
But, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for that detail. It sounds like a wonderful event. I'm surprised I didn't know about it until now. Do we have any idea about how attendance or participation is looking for this year, since July is not that far away?
Chair McGill and Commissioner Nielsen, I don't have details on exactly what the participation looks like, but last year we had very high rates of participation, so it really depends on what the event is. But in terms of capacity, some of the events have hundreds of participants. For instance, the Junior Guards Fiesta competition is very fun to observe. I highly recommend taking a look at that one. And that brings junior guards from across Southern and Central California to come and participate. It gets hundreds of participants.
Yeah,
So-
thank you.
All right, great, thank you. And I think that takes us to, where are we? We're moving so fast, I'm losing. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. I'm moving a little too fast.
No, my name's been up there a lot. I didn't leave it up this time. So I had 2 questions. First of all, the Dwight Murphy Field, the generous gift from Ty Warner. Do we have any idea if that's a lump sum, if it's paid out over installments over a period of years, or is the MOU still under negotiation?
Chair McGill and Commissioner Price, the MOU has gone to City Council. I don't recall that information, but I would be happy to take a look at it in the next few minutes, and we can circle back around to that after this next presentation.
Okay,
To
thank you.
share that.
And the second question I had, the 2-day market on Mother's Day, any idea how the vendors did? Was there a lot of attendance from shoppers?
Chair McGill and Commissioner Price, I did not attend that weekend, and I haven't asked, but again, that's something I would be happy to quickly ask staff and circle back to before the end of this meeting.
Excellent, thank
I
you.
saw some things on Instagram that suggested that at least there were some sales. Commissioner Ramsey?
Oh, I was there. I purchased some art. It was well attended. Yes.
I have something hanging in my bedroom that I bought at that show in 1985, so it's gone everywhere with me.
It's been going on for a while.
Yeah, it's been around for a while. All right. I think that takes us to our next agenda item, and is number 7. So it's the Community Wildfire Protection Plan for information. So, welcome.
Chair McGill and Commissioners, I'll just give a very brief introduction. So we're very excited to have our Fire Marshal here, Ryan DiGiulio, who is going to be presenting the Community Wildfire Protection Plan and kind of specifically focusing on how this plan touches Parks and Recreation and our urban forest.
Great, thanks, Jasmine.
Welcome.
This thing's on.
It's on.
It's on. Good afternoon, Chair McGill, Commissioners. As Jasmine mentioned, my name's Ryan DiGiulio, and I'm a battalion chief and the fire marshal here with the City Fire Department. This is my 23rd year in the fire service, and I've been spoiled to call Santa Barbara the last 20 years of my career, and I'm also called my home. So thanks for having me, and as Jasmine mentioned, just speaking a little bit about the wildfire issue we have in our community. If you've been in this town longer than 10 minutes, you know that we have a significant issue when it comes to wildfires. And what are we going to do about it? What's the fire department going to do about it? What's the city going to do about it? A lot of it is encompassed in the open spaces in our parks. How are we going to tackle this issue and all come together? So I thought I'd give you a little information on what we're doing and some exciting stuff that's happening as we speak. So the first thing we had to do is come up with a good updated document. So this is actually our community wildfire protection plan. This is all available online under the fire department's website. This was updated back in 2021. The previous rendition was a 2001 model, so it was definitely a little dusty. Time to update that. It was actually great timing around 2021. A lot of different significant fires in the state and in our own backyard, so it really gained a lot of traction right off the bat. Basically what the CWPP is it's our guidebook. It tells us everything we're going to try to accomplish. What's the problem? How are we going to get this wildland fire problem under control? Who do we need to partner with? How do we accomplish this? Everything from evacuation routes to vegetation management to individual homeowners and how we can help them make their homes more defendable and hardened. So it's really our guidebook. It's taken a lot of time and a lot of resources to implement some of the goals in there, but I'm happy to report that we've done a lot of them already, and we continue to knock some of those out. So within that CWPP, some of the major changes that happened in 2021 is these are distances that we refer to in our defensible space requirements. So each homeowner or property owner is required by law, if you live in these high fire hazard areas, to maintain this defensible space. That's basically the idea of we're trying to break up vegetation on every single parcel, individual parcel, so that the fire doesn't propagate all the way through onto the structure itself. So we actually offer free defensible space evaluations to the public. If they give us a call, we'll come out there and ask and give them our advice. A lot of people are hesitant to call because they think we're going to make them moonscape their entire yard and just cut everything down, and that's not the case. Santa Barbara's a beautiful place. We want to keep their vegetation. But what we want to do is what we call the breaking up the fire ladder. So fire on the ground, and this is anywhere, somebody's single-family dwelling or in one of our park places, our amazing parks. If fire's on the ground, no problem, we can get to it. Fire gets, around here head high, it's a little bit of an issue. Once it gets up in the crowns of the vegetation, that's what we see on TV. Now it's off and running. So what we're trying to do is take some of the rungs out of those ladders, right? So the fire can't communicate from the ground up to that crown, or in some cases, unfortunately we've seen lately, onto houses, under eaves, and the house itself becomes a fuel source. So those are the different distances if you live in some of our high fire hazard areas. We're trying to get folks to retrofit their homes through home hardening. That's a system of taking an existing structure and making it a little bit more wildfire resilient. There's a lot of different ways you can do that, from inexpensive to very expensive. We have a lot of handouts on that. Been teaching a lot of folks about evacuation safety. In my 20 years, I feel like there's a lot of turnover in some of the high fire hazard area zones with folks leaving town and other folks coming in. Those new folks don't understand how complicated the road system is in the Riviera, right? It's hard enough to have two Hondas go by each other, let alone 4,000 people and a bunch of fire apparatus going up. So a lot of evacuation safety information we've been getting out there. That goes along with our communications upgrades that we've been doing to educate our community a little bit more. And then also modernizing that education that we're pushing out. Is everybody in the community being reached? Do we have bilingual interpretations of all of our information that we give out for free? Are we available to do defensible space evaluations on a bilingual basis? So really emphasizing that as well. So this is obviously the map of the city. These are our designated high fire hazard areas. The red toward the Los Padres Forest, that's the extreme foothill zone. And then below that is the foothill zone. And then over toward the coast, we have a couple other designated areas. That's the coastal and the coastal interior zone. So some of those requirements that I've been speaking about, that's where these get plugged in. Anybody that lives in these areas has to maintain that defensible space, and/or we are trying to encourage folks to harden their home a little bit more. These maps are given to us by CAL FIRE, the state's fire department. We're allowed to modify those based off our local jurisdictional needs, which we've done here in the city. We've made them more restrictive than what the state has given us because we understand our topography, we understand our climate, we understand the vegetation we have. We understand that our mountain range is weird and that it runs east to west, right? And so we have south-facing slopes of sun all day. So we understand all that. The state doesn't. So we make some of these areas more restrictive based on those conditions. One of the things we've launched too on our website is people call us a lot and say, am I in the high fire hazard area? Well, go to this website and punch in your address and it'll show you if you're in there or not. So we've made a simple GIS layer and it's searchable for folks to go on our website. And if they figure out that they're in one of these high fire hazard areas, then it's a great on-ramp for us to engage them about how they can make their homes and properties safer. Again, I think what's interesting about our high fire hazard areas is that's a lot of our open spaces, city-owned open spaces, right? Taking the downtown corridor out and some of our smaller city spaces, that's our biggest areas of acreage that is open spaces. A lot of it's owned by the city. So we have to be good neighbors too. What are we gonna do? What's the city gonna do to help combat this issue if we're gonna go out there and tell these people they need to do X, Y, and Z or encourage them to do this, that, or the other thing? So part of that is these vegetation management units. So within the Community Wildfire Protection Plan, we've identified these areas that are a priority for us to go in and treat, either mechanically or we've used sheep and goats in the past, or lambs, I should say. And these gave us a good guidance and kind of a mosaic pattern to make a good fire break. You know, back in the 60s and even the 70s, they would just get bulldozers in the Los Padres Forest and just bulldoze 3 or 4 tracks wide and say, you're good for the fire season. Well, we don't want to do that anymore. That's obviously not environmentally sound. So we've come up with different ways of managing that vegetation and identifying some of those areas. So again, a lot of city property within these vegetation management units. Of course, our program came with an EIR that was approved by City Council as well. A lot of moving pieces, a lot of different components to the Community Wildfire Protection Plan when it comes to integrating some of the work we're trying to accomplish, the different areas, creeks, stream beds, parks, nesting habitat. All that comes into play. And this was a very complicated and robust process to get that implemented. A little step away from the CWPP, we are in communication with Mr. Slack a lot about trees, and I know they come up quite often in this board and the Street Tree Advisory Committee. So I thought I'd just kind of go over from our lens what the fire department's looking at whenever we are consulted with Mr. Slack or back and forth. So as I pointed out in those high fire hazard areas, that's a lot of where the legality comes of what the fire department can enforce on. If you're outside of that high fire hazard areas, there may not be as much influence for a person to remove a tree or legal ways that we can do that because it's deemed a fire hazard. If you are inside those high fire hazard areas, we have a little bit more legal authority behind us to say you need to remove that dead vegetation, whether it's a tree, bush, whatever it might be. So, again, a lot of folks get confused about high fire hazard areas. It is just a hazard map. It designates parts of the city that are a little bit more hazardous to wildland fires. It's not a risk map. That's the difference a lot of people get confused with. The insurance issue is big right now with folks losing their homeowners insurance. The insurance companies are just that. They're private entities. They don't have to follow our maps. They use risk analysis to come up with their individual policyholders. We dictate what is a hazard and not. So it's two different things. So we get lots of people calling us saying, hey, there's a tree on my street. My insurance company won't renew my policy unless you guys tell them to take it out. And we go out there and we go, well, the tree is actually healthy, doesn't pose a fire hazard from our point of view. So I'm sorry, we can't just eliminate trees because you need to have your policy renewed. So it gets a little tricky. Again, there's some of that legal verbiage of trees that are outside the high fire hazard. It has to be capable of being ignited and endangering property. So if you're outside the high fire hazard area, that's the California Fire Code section that we can use to enforce on some of those trees. So again, a live, healthy tree, we're definitely not arborists by any stretch of the imagination. We're really good at chopping them down, but we're not that good at designating what kind they are or how healthy they are. That's where we call Nathan and we say, hey, you know what, Nathan, we got this complaint. It doesn't really pose a threat of being ignited or endangering property. What do you think? Is it a healthy tree? It looks healthy to us. So we have that collaboration with Nathan a lot. Again, live trees don't fit in this category. Now, trees inside the high fire hazard area, there's definitely more regulations and enforcement within the California Fire Code. What we try to do with either complaints or residents or members of the community we deal with is a three-step process. We try to educate them first. If that doesn't work, then we try to do different engineering ideas. And at the very end, we can use our enforcement powers. So we'd much rather have buy-in with the community, educating them on the risks that they have versus going in and just giving notices of violation to everybody on a street saying you need to remove all these trees, either on their property or calling Nathan for the public right-of-way. So that's the angle. We deal with trees inside the high fire area. There's also a municipal code section we can use as well. And that really leans back to our community wildfire plan and that defensible space requirements I had mentioned earlier. So this is hard to read. Apologize for that. So basically, if you have a existing structure, we have a handout here online that kind of goes over what I was speaking about today, and it's our defensible space requirements. When it comes to vegetation, how far should the tree limbs be away from a chimney? How far should vegetation be from a structure? What kind of trees can I have? It's a very distinct document. It also talks about access in your driveways. What does that look like? How can we get in? How can you get out? How can we do both at the same time? So it gives all our different requirements for that. Again, this is information you've seen already, but it gives a good insight and a tool for the public to come take a look at that. And then, of course, if there's new development that's happening, especially in the high fire hazard area, there's certain landscape requirements that are defined by the state fire marshal. So any kind of new development in a high fire hazard area has to meet certain planting restrictions based on the zones that it is away from the structure. So there's 4 different zones with different distances. Within those zones is dictated what you can and cannot plant. And that's to increase the fire rating of the actual property itself. We've even come down here and listed, I believe, these are all the different plant species that are allowed. So this is available to the public as well on a handout. I believe we're just about due to update this plant list as well. We've been working with the botanical gardens to help us with that. Because once again, we are not good at pretending to be arborists, even close. I saw some of those names Nathan was saying earlier, and it spooked me. The most exciting thing I wanted to share with you, just in closing, is through this community wildfire protection plan, we've thought outside the box a little bit and wondered how we can accomplish some of these goals, especially in our open spaces. And that's where the Parks Department has come in and our partnerships with them. We opened up a dialogue with Parks and we said, hey, this is what we're trying to accomplish. And Parks said, well, hey, this is what we're trying to accomplish. So, well, why don't we get together and see what we can pull off? So meetings or ideas and dreams led into meetings with people above my pay grade, and then started to become a reality, which has been super exciting. We obtained some funding and grants, both by the Coastal Conservancy and by CAL FIRE, to actually implement some of those goals within the CWPP, and with that comes the public outreach. So even today, Monique O'Connor, who I did not know a year and a half ago, we're like best work friends because we do so much work. In my office, and of course Jasmine and Jill's office are working amazingly hand in hand. So I love this logo. I almost want to put the heart in the middle, but it really does show that if you come together within your own cities or organizations, you can get a lot done. I would say probably for the fire department side, the shining star of this grant funding and some of this thinking out of the box is our vegetation management crew. So in the first time in the fire department's history, we hired 5 to 6 folks that are a lot younger and stronger than I am to come in and do some of that vegetation removal and tackle some of those vegetation management units. So the beauty of having a partnership with Parks is we can utilize people like Monique, who understands the biological side and the wildlife side of these open spaces, and we can do meetings beforehand. You can see her walking around there with Jill and some of the crew folks. She's educating the crews. Cut here, don't cut there. This is a nesting bird, let's move on. This looks good, this needs more sunlight here. It's a great partnership. So if you've had a chance to go through Douglas Family Preserve or Parma, I'm sure you've been up in Parma, watching some of that fire mitigation work with the trail restoration work has been really a highlight and something that I'm very proud of Parks and Fire for coming together on that. I don't know if we have any audio. We may not, that's okay. This is a great, I'll just talk you through a couple seconds of it. You don't want to see my face anymore. This is a great video that City TV did for us. So this is a work up in Parma when we had just gotten our vegetation management crew in year 1. They're in year 2 right now. So it really shows how these folks are coming together to tackle a bunch of issues. Monique's talking about how we're keeping the native environment and maintaining some of our trail systems and our beautiful open spaces, and at the same time we're eliminating some of that fire risk. Again, the ultimate goal from our lens is we're trying to be a good neighbor to the folks that actually live in the neighborhoods that border our parks and our city open spaces. So in order to get buy-in from the community to do some of these wildland fire mitigation projects, we got to take care of our own. So that's when we started implementing this work, and it's been extremely successful. So I think that's all I have. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer anything.
And Chair McGill and Commissioners, before you begin, I should have mentioned just before this presentation started that we also have several members of our Parks and Recreation staff here who are available to answer any questions along with Ryan here. So I'll just mention that we have Simone Herrera, our Parks Manager, Nathan Slack, the City Arborist and Urban Forestry Superintendent, and Monique O'Connor, Open Space Planner, here as well.
Okay, well, that's a lot to take in. I mean, I will have to say, I went to a couple of the community meetings at Douglas back when. It's been a while now. And I know I said something to Monique at the time, but I mean, you guys were just rock stars in how, in my view, in how you interacted and communicated with the community in terms of just, it was a very active community. The Douglas Preserve meetings were very, very active and very well attended, and just listened and engaged with everyone. I didn't miss a beat in terms of answering questions, and very fact-based. And you could just see that they were good meetings where people were, you know, feeling like, okay, these guys have got this, and you did a great job. And Parma looks great too. But in terms of, you can open up for questions. I mean, the big one here that we see every month is trees and homeowners. And that's just an ever emerging and increasing issue. You know, certainly I've been personally impacted by it, but, and it's hard not to sympathize with somebody who's losing their insurance. And it's also, and yet we hear you guys say all the time, a live tree that's not in the red zone is not something that we're going to say needs to be removed. And I don't know how we square that circle and how we get you guys get engaged in the conversation and what we need to be doing with the homeowners that are losing their insurance. I mean, it's a tough one, and it's kind of I'm putting it out there, like, any ideas for how we manage that, because it's getting harder.
Yeah, Chair McGill, Commissioners. What we've also been doing is we have another great partnership with the Santa Barbara County Fire Safe Council. They're a nonprofit organization that works throughout the entire county to tackle this wildland fire issue. What they have the ability to do is to make neighborhoods what they call a fire-wise community. And what that is, do you remember the old neighborhood watch programs? So take crime out and put fire in instead. So what you can do is on a neighborhood basis, a couple houses, 3-4 houses, 40 houses, 50 houses. The Highlands became a fire-wise community up on Miramonte. Northridge is working on it right now. What you do is you come together as a street, and I think it's only like 1 or 2 Saturdays a year, you actually do projects on your street to increase your wildfire resiliency. If you get that national designation, which costs you nothing, you can show that to your insurance companies, and a lot of them will go, oh, you've actually done the work. Here you go. We'll open up that door for a conversation again. So we're finding ways to circumnavigate the issues that these folks are facing, because it is a lot, and it's a crisis, and we understand that. So we just don't want to hang up the phone. We want to try to give them other options that both, you know, benefit themselves individually, but also their entire neighborhoods.
Okay, thanks. Commissioner Nielsen.
Thank you for the presentation. Can you elaborate on what you just said about a street coming together to do projects? Would that just be like thinning and pruning and weed whacking and things of that nature on their street?
Yeah, exactly. Even helping your elderly neighbor who can't, or the person that may not have the funds that can, or is not ambulatory. If I didn't get into it, because we could be here for hours, but the Wildfire Suppression Assessment District is a special district we have up in the Riviera. Well, we will come by. Everybody up there pays a tax per year, and that we will come by and chip any vegetation you put out on the street for free and haul it away. So that's part of that Firewise community. If you want to become a Firewise community in that neighborhood, all you have to do is spend a Saturday morning cutting a bunch of vegetation that we recommend you do, lay it out on the street, and walk away. We'll take the rest of it, and you're done.
That's been happening in my neighborhood recently. So you're saying that's not a citywide, like on this day it rotates what neighborhood? That's only for the Firewise communities that happens?
No, that's for the Wildland Fire Suppression District. So that is in certain designated areas of the city. It's not citywide. but it's a great way to couple that program with the FireWise program. So now you're getting the community involvement, your neighborhood involvement, and you get the benefit of the city coming by if you live in this wildfire suppression district, assessment district, to come by and grab all your vegetation for you, and you don't have to worry about the waste material.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Commissioner Price, then Commissioner Ramsey.
Thank you very much. A couple of questions. First of all, I really appreciated the point about, it's a comment that will lead to a question, trust me. I really appreciated your point about the fire hazard maps are not the insurance risk assessment maps. And that really struck a chord, because I think that's something we really fight with whenever homeowners come and talk to us. And I mean, we're trying to, I guess, advocate for the city and try and stay within these narrow guardrails, but they're seeing a very different story from their insurance companies. And I do appreciate the FireWise Community's recommendation that I think we'll definitely take forward. I would be interested to see, and here's the question, what, in your opinion, and I don't need specific figures, what is the delta you see between the insurance risk assessments and your fire maps? Is it wildly different? Is it some areas are higher risk than others? I'd like to hear your opinion on that.
Yeah, Commissioner Price, good question. And it'll be a short answer. I don't know. They don't have to provide any of their risk analysis matrix to us or any other governmental agency. So I can honestly tell you that I'm in the dark for what they use as far as their risk assessments. And that might even vary between different insurance carriers themselves. So everybody has their secret recipe they're not going to let go, and we're in the same boat. I just don't know.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate the candor, thank you. And I guess this one is kind of a combination, and Mr. Slack, I almost didn't recognize you with your hair down. I used to have similar hair back when I was in college, so right on, man. I would like to know, were the W. Coles, the water rating criteria that we see often with the street trees, taken into account whenever you put together your master list of recommended trees?
Chair McGill and Commissioner Price, I think their list is different than our list, but I think the drought tolerant species palette tends to be the most like fire resistant as well. So I think most of what you're seeing there is a low water use, very like drought tolerant, tough. You know, a lot of it's like regionally appropriate, thus the partnership with the Botanic Garden. So I think that's true, not having the list in front of me.
Thank you.
Commissioner Ramsey.
Thank you so much, Fire Marshal Ryan, for coming in and giving this presentation. We're actually looking at our open space element plan right after this meeting, so great time. I'm going to be recommending we actually add reference to the, what do you call it, your Bible book of, I forgot the name.
The Community Wildfire Protection Plan?
Thank you so much. Are there any specific things we should incorporate into that, like specific goals for open spaces, because Rattlesnake Canyon seems to be such a hazardous area, potentially. Should we instill that laddered tier system of fire prevention, or should we make specific recommendations?
Yeah, Chair McGill, Commissioner Ramsey. I think the beauty of the Community Wildfire Protection Plan is a lot of that legwork has already been done. So you wouldn't have to reinvent the wheel per se. Now, there still are things that are evolving that are outside the document that we have our eyes on. For example, no parking at Rattlesnake Canyon on a red flag day. They do that now at Cold Springs Trail and at the end of Tunnel. You may have seen that Tunnel Road where Hayes-Cedar Trail starts. So on a red flag day, there's no vehicles on the road up there. So things like that, where you kind of think outside the box and a little bit more general fire safety community-wise, would be great. One thing the CWPP did not talk about, because it predated this, was our actual relationship with parks and other city departments. I think if you elaborated on that collaboration. Who knows what could come next and how far, we could push our open spaces forward.
Thank you so much. And on that collaboration, super positive. Love to hear everything going on. Is there any red tape you've been running into with the Parks Department that we can kind of smooth out? Sorry to embarrass every park member here.
Commissioner Ramsey, no, that's a good question. No, I'll be honest with you, no. It's been super exciting, and that's why we get kind of fired up to talk about it, because we have a lot of new ideas floating around, and a lot of the times there was massive amounts of red tape in the past that we just couldn't get past. But I think with funding available statewide and even at a federal level, because they're understanding the significance of this wildfire problem, in conjunction with doing it properly in a restoration manner, with some ideas floating around, all came together at the same time, and we went, oh, I think we got a little lightning in a bottle here. And so once we put all of our pieces of the pie together, we put in the oven, and this is what's come out. It's been pretty exciting.
Thank you so much.
Commissioner Nielsen, you had another one, right?
Yeah, Fire Marshal. I also wanted to, I guess, echo that the Douglas Family Preserve Project seemed like a really good example of the collaboration. It's a place that I go to all the time, and simple choices like rather than just cutting everything into 2-foot chunks that are easy to throw in the chipper, making them part of the open space such that it turns into a natural playground, and the dogs and the kids and everybody can, jump on it and use it, and it forms our trails. Or when you're at Parma and there's a place that you can use a specifically laid trunk of tree to catch a rest, and if you're going up a hill. I think those are really important decision points in collaboration to continue to do with our Parks Department, because it's a shame when these maybe a fallen tree, it can still be an asset in some way, a natural jungle gym, and it just all ends up getting chipped if there's other ways we can put it to use. So I appreciate your management team taking the time to take that input to collaborate in these open spaces.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Nielsen. There's other layers too that people don't recognize. So Douglas Family Preserve, for example, and I think that's why there's so much engagement in the public meetings, is people are a little scared. Like, what are you going to do and come in and do here? And once we did some of that work, we got a lot of buy-in from the community there and the neighbors there. And there's also these layers that I mentioned. So where somebody might see a nice open trail or a lined area of Douglas Family Preserve, it's actually our access way to get fire engines in there. So it's that multitasking of, let's not throw all that away. Let's actually use the logs here. Let's define this area. Let's leave this open for the kids to play on. Let's do some of that mosaic work. And oh yeah, by the way, now we can get our fire engines in here and do some good work.
Yeah, just kind of a side question. Does the CWPP influence at all what size trucks and tankers you guys buy and how you manage your fleet to get to these areas? I know that there's some communities, and maybe less so in North America, that use much smaller tankers and trucks in order to address different types of properties, parcels, and open spaces they would get to, that maybe they don't have a 20-foot easement, or that it's a different type of terrain.
Yeah, good question, Commissioner Nielsen. The CWPP does not influence that, but the greater needs of the community do. So I'm kind of going on a tangent, but what the heck. Think about the city of Santa Barbara and what we're responsible for protecting and the people that live in it. Ocean rescue, railroad, highway, airport, wildland fire, structural firefighters, rescue, cliff rescue. I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on and on. So those needs actually dictate a fleet of fire department to best serve the citizens. So for our city, we have two what are called Type 3 engines. Those are those big, tall ones you usually see wildland firefighting, and those things can go anywhere. So we have 2 of those in the city, and we can get as many as 30 more within a phone call. So our fleet takes into that consideration things of the CWP. So what we do is in the back of our head, the fire department, we work with parks is, hey, we can get our type 3 engine in here now. This is great, perfect. Let's move on to the next spot. Or can we improve this road, or no, we can't, so that we have a chance to get the apparatus we know we have in there to mitigate any kind of issue.
Yeah, thank you for elaborating on that. And then going back, I'm really relieved to hear that, the view is that a live tree isn't a fire hazard, and that kind of gives us some justification to say, hey, a healthy, well-maintained tree is, just because your insurance company says it's too close to your house doesn't mean it's on the face able to just come out for that reason. Do you see if there's any other areas that the CWPP is not aligned with our urban forest management plan and our street tree ordinances and all the other documentation about how we have a thriving, healthy, multi-tiered forest? Their analogy about removing the ladders makes sense from a fire perspective. Does it feel in conflict at all with, how we say we want to have a robust urban forest in your mind?
Commissioner Nielsen, I think it's a delicate balance, and that balance has been fantastic because of our collaboration and our communication. If both of our departments were working in silos, we would be on different paths. So to have us come together, introduce the CWPP, I don't know how many times Monique has handed me her binoculars when I'm out there, and she's teaching me about this bird and that bird and what this does and that, which is fantastic. So now I have a better understanding. Parks and trees have a better understanding of our goals. So now we're working a little bit more collaboratively, and then we have that proper balance between, no, fire department said no, well, tree said yes. Well, if we have that communication linked together, then we can actually have a better outcome for a lot of especially the homeowners themselves.
And
Thank you, appreciate it.
Chair McGill and Commissioner Nielsen, could I just add too, I'd say the CWPP was, as you heard earlier, we had about a 20-year gap between versions. And, when we embarked on this project, the fire department led the project of updating the plan, but they did that in collaboration, very close collaboration with every department that would be impacted, including Parks and Recreation. So we hope, I know that many people have pored over those documents carefully to make sure that the plans that we have align with the CWPP. So I believe that is the case with our forestry plans. And part of what you see when Nathan Slack comes up and is recommending changes to the master street tree plan on, typically there's at least one change in a given month, is to try to take what we know about today's Santa Barbara and make adjustments to the plan that was first put together, I believe, in 1979. So, things change over time, including what we know about fire and trees. And so we make those changes to try to always make sure we're staying in lockstep with the CWPP.
So I have a question. The work that you've been doing is in the city open areas is known and great. What is the relationship and collaboration with Elings Park, which is a huge open area and kind of a pretty densely populated area?
Yeah, Chair McGill. We communicate with the park frequently, guide some of their decisions. We don't have a lot of authority or authoritative power in Elings Park itself because it is a foundation. They would be, in our eyes, treated as just another parcel owner. They do obviously have a very large open space. As you may or may not know, they think they finished using their lambs. They were up there for the last 3 or 4 weeks. Mm-hmm. But we talk to them often. They will come to us with conceptual ideas. We will give them our advice of not a good idea, here's why. This is a good idea. Whether they follow those suggestions or not is completely up to them.
Okay, and that not just the Mesa area, but also the brushier areas on the north side, and yeah.
Yeah, so we currently treat Elings like any other parcel owner where they have to maintain their defensible space from the neighborhoods themselves, the structures. And then that interior portion of the park is where we have those collaboration talks.
Okay, thank you. I think that's probably a wrap. I anticipate that this is not a finished conversation, particularly as the whole homeowner, as this whole kind of crisis evolves. I imagine that the collaboration is great. I'm sure there'll be more conversation, and it'd probably be worthwhile. I don't know if we need to do it annually or whatever period of time, whatever frequency, but I think periodic check-ins with the fire department and park and the collaboration is probably advisable, because we really have this conversation almost every month. And with that, thank you so much for a fabulous presentation and discussion. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Maybe mix this up and there are no page numbers. Yeah, I see.
Chair McGill and Commissioners, our next item is on the open space element. I'm very excited to have Jillian Ferguson, an associate planner, presenting, as well as Rosie Deisty?
Deisty.
Rosie Dicey, is that?
Deisty is how you pronounce it.
Who is an interim principal planner with the Community Development Department.
So good evening, Chair McGill and members of the commission. I just want to introduce my colleague, Jillian Ferguson, is going to do the presentation today, and we're really excited to be back to you. We were last before you in March when we sort of kicked this off, and now we have some goals for your input and some information about implementation status. So with that, I'll hand it over to Jillian.
Thank you, Rosie. Chair McGill and Commissioners, here's what we'll be covering today. A brief summary of the progress made so far, an overview of the general plan structure and how the open space element fits within it, a presentation of the draft goals shaped by your input and refined through interdepartmental working group collaboration, a review of implementation progress from past planning efforts, and finally a look ahead at next steps in the process. So the inventory of the city's open space areas are being updated and refined, and updates to the associated mapping are currently in progress. Draft goals have been developed, and we have also gathered valuable input during our outreach at the city's Earth Day weekend. As part of the open space element update, staff conducted outreach to better understand how residents experience and value parks and open spaces in Santa Barbara. Through surveys and engagement, community members shared their favorite places, including Schofield, Rattlesnake, Mission Historical Park, Douglas Family Preserve, and Shoreline Park, and emphasized the need for more parks in areas like Upper State and West Side and West Downtown. We asked residents how often they visit parks or trails, how easy it is to access these spaces, what activities they enjoy most, and where improvements are needed. We also invited people to share their vision for the future of open space, highlighting priorities like habitat restoration, equity, climate resilience, and cultural resource protection. This input, combined with staff analysis and working group collaboration, is directly shaping the updated goals, policies, and implementation actions in the new element. The updated open space element will follow a clear and organized format to reflect both current conditions and future community needs. First, it will include narrative text that describes the city's physical setting, existing open space network, and anticipated future needs. This section will also address topics such as equitable access, habitat restoration, and the protection of tribal cultural resources. Second, the element will contain a detailed inventory of existing open space and a set of updated maps to help visualize distribution, gaps, and opportunities. Finally, the core of the document will present a comprehensive framework of goals, policies, and implementation actions, ensuring that the vision for open space translates into clear direction and actionable steps for the city. This format is consistent with the general plan and will support coordinated planning across departments. The general plan format includes 3 key components. Goals express broad community values. Policies provide specific guidance for decision-making. Implementation actions are the programs or steps that bring those policies to life. Each policy should have at least one implementation action to ensure clear accountability. Staff worked closely with our working group to evaluate existing policies and coordinate across city policies. Priorities. The draft goals presented today are the result of that review and are directly informed by community outreach and your earlier guidance. Defining goals is a foundational step in this update. The process began by revisiting the Commission's earlier direction to review existing open space policies in coordination with our working group. This group brought together staff from Planning, Parks and Recreation, the Airport, and Sustainability and Resilience to ensure alignment with broader city priorities. To inform our work, we reviewed recent open space elements from other jurisdictions for inspiration and best practices. We also incorporated direct feedback from the community, what people value, where they see needs, and how they envision future open space. The draft goals you'll see today reflect this collective effort. They are shaped by your guidance, grounded in cross-departmental collaboration, and designed to address the themes that emerge through community engagement. Let's start with the first goal. Enhance the city's livability and character and the community's health and well-being through a diverse system of parks and open spaces, including nature reserves, trails, easements, urban agriculture, and recreational facilities. This goal speaks to the broad community value of open space as part of daily life. Parks and natural areas provide opportunities for exercise, relaxation, community gatherings, and connection with nature, which are essential elements of what makes Santa Barbara a healthy and livable city. Building on that, the second goal focuses on how we sustain these spaces over time. Provide stable and adequate funding and resources to maintain and acquire open space and park areas to meet the needs of current and future residents. Stable and predictable funding is crucial. Without it, we risk losing the quality and accessibility of our parks. This goal ensures that future planning includes the financial resources needed to protect and grow our open space system. Next, we turn to the broader landscape beyond city boundaries. Acknowledge, maintain, and expand regional trail and park connections with the Los Padres National Forest and neighboring jurisdictions. This goal acknowledges that Santa Barbara is part of a regional network of parks, trails, and protected lands. Strengthening those connections supports recreation, habitat, continuity, and regional partnerships that benefit both people and wildlife. From regional context, we move to environmental protection. Protect and restore natural ecosystems, including sensitive species habitats and wildlife corridors, and tribal cultural resources. Santa Barbara's open spaces are home to a variety of sensitive habitats and species, as well as culturally significant sites. This goal ensures that conservation and restoration are prioritized and that tribal perspectives are respected in land management. An equally important aspect is who gets to enjoy these spaces. Ensure equitable access and use of open space and parks throughout the city. This goal emphasizes the importance of ensuring that all neighborhoods, especially historically underserved ones, have access to safe, welcoming, and high-quality parks and open space. Finally, we look to the future. Manage open space to improve habitat values and foster ecological resilience with a changing climate. This goal reflects our need to adapt open space planning and maintenance to a changing environment. It focuses on climate resilience, emphasizing habitat health, water conservation, and long-term ecological function in the face of growing climate impacts. Now that we've looked at the draft goals, let's take a step back and see where we've been. The city's open space policies have a long history. From the 2011 general plan update, there were 12 implementation actions identified. Among those actions related to the preservation of regional open space are mostly complete, and initiatives tied to citizen and youth involvement are still ongoing today. The remaining items from 2011 are expected to be folded into the upcoming Parks and Recreation Master Plan update or refined as part of this open space element process. Going back even further, the 1972 open space element included 21 actions. At this point, those have either been fully implemented or are no longer applicable in today's planning context. This slide helps show how we've built on past efforts and where we're focusing next. Next, we're revisiting 4 policies from the earlier open space element with staff's recommendations for refining these. This slide includes OP 1.2 and OP 1.3, both of which focus on identifying and protecting key open space areas. OP 1.2 relates to remaining key open space. Our recommendation is to develop a refined or potentially new list of priority open space areas based on current conditions, ecological value, and community need. OP 1.3, Protect Contiguous Open Land, emphasizes the importance of connectivity. For this, we recommend creating updated maps to visually identify areas that are especially valuable due to their size, location, or relationship to other natural lands. Together, these updates will help ensure we're working from the most accurate, up-to-date understanding of Santa Barbara's open space network and planning appropriately for long-term protection. This slide refers to policy OP 1.5, which focused on encouraging community gardens on vacant lands. While community gardens remain a valued use in some areas, we're recommending a shift in emphasis from community gardens, which can require substantial staff time, water, and ongoing management, to passive open space uses, such as native plantings, shade groves, or small-scale rest areas. This adjustment reflects resource constraints, public interest in low-maintenance green space, and the city's capacity to manage garden infrastructure long-term. We'd appreciate your thoughts on how best to balance both community needs and feasibility. Policy OP 2.7 addresses the role of privately held land in the city's open space network. Currently, this policy is fairly limited. We're recommending an amendment to specifically identify private properties that contain significant stands of native vegetation and mature trees, areas that can provide real ecological value, even outside public ownership. The intent is to explore voluntary collaborative strategies with landowners to help preserve these resources, whether through stewardship agreements, technical guidance, or potential incentives. This approach allows the city to expand conservation efforts beyond public parcels and better protect high-value habitat and tree canopy across the community. Again, we'd welcome your thoughts on how to refine or support this recommendation. To wrap up, here's a look at our overall timeline for updating this element. We officially initiated the update in fall 2024. Beginning with research, data collection, and mapping, that work is underway now and will continue through the early part of this year. As we move into summer 2025, we'll shift into drafting the element itself, incorporating community input, departmental collaboration, and your feedback into clear goals, policies, and implementation measures. Later in the summer and into the fall, we'll return for public and decision-maker review, giving the community and commissions like this one the chance to weigh in on the full draft. And finally, we're aiming for adoption hearings in winter 2025 to formally adopt the updated element into the city's general plan. This timeline gives us the space to engage thoughtfully and build a document that truly reflects Santa Barbara's values around open space. To close out the presentation, here's what's coming next in the open space element update process. First, we'll complete the research and inventory of existing open space resources. This includes confirming mapped areas and identifying gaps in access or ecological value, and refining our understanding of community needs. Next, we'll begin drafting the core of the document, text, policies, and implementation actions based on what we've heard from the community, internal departments, and this commission. We'll also continue outreach during this time to ensure we're hearing from a diverse range of voices across the city. And importantly, once a draft is ready, we'll return to this commission for review and input before moving forward with broader public review and adoption. Thank you again for your guidance and support in shaping this work.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. I will open for questions, and we're going to start with Commissioner Ramsey.
Thank you so much, staff, for going through this. It was a thorough review of legacy documents and providing a clear summary of everything. I think there are 4 action items I took away from this that I thought will just kind of move it in the right direction. The first is goal number 5. It seems a little thin. I'd like to ask that staff inserts a number to kind of give us a KPI to track to in the future. What came to my mind was the amount of residents within a 10-minute walk to parks or ADA accessible space. I think this matters because what gets measured gets managed, and then in 10 years you guys can come back and say, hey, we increased this number. I think that'd be valuable to add. Goal number 6, we just talked to Fire Marshal Ryan, and I think, I don't think it's known that Santa Barbara fire is a threat not only to the ecological but public safety. So I think it would be wise to reference the wildfire resistance plan in that language and talk about vegetation management. We should show that this OSE document is part of the solution moving forward. Great. My third note was on OP 1.5. I think this is a great opportunity to kind of enhance the beauty and nature of Santa Barbara. If we can encourage, low impact uses for pollinator gardens, passive parks, pop-up orchards, whatever it may be, I think the use of these vacant parcels will let the city, use these underutilized sites, and then we can quickly change them to be future development. So what I'm saying is, I think we should modernize that language of the vacant land gardens to allow for flexible interim use. The inspiration in this is the city of Montreal has these pocket gardens that just showed up on vacant parcels, and they're so beautifully manicured, and the residents really take the pride behind it, and I think that's something that Santa Barbarans could grab and run wild with, and really just kind of make some beauty out of dirt and rubble at the moment. So that's that one. And then my last is, you didn't talk about OP 2.5, citizen involvement. I think we should change the wording a little bit to make sure we're including the whole community in this process, and I think that by including bi-language material, that'll help just kind of make sure everyone feels involved. And I'll stop yelling at you now. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Ramsey.
Okay, well, I'll kick in. Yeah, thank you for this. It was very comprehensive, and it was very thought-provoking. Somehow I'm going to echo what you just heard. Definitely incorporating the fire plan. And I think there could be even some incorporation of some language in having the private-public conversation and fire resiliency. And I'm kind of thinking back to Eleen's Park here. And I don't know what you can do with that, but at least have that something that's in the consciousness. definitely the 1.5, I support the passive use. I mean, I'm having been through enough presentations now of what it actually takes to maintain and sustain the community gardens. I think, the greater community would be served by the passive use in the native plantings. Interesting, when we talk about accessibility, I think we all think about these things differently. Some of it is the walkable, livable city and having open spaces in the more urbanized, densely populated, you can't find a spot to park type parts of the city. But then, but there's also, and this isn't really explicitly addressed, there's the ADA component as well. And I think there needs to be some conscious, sort of explicit conversation about that in this, because, I mean, certainly different open spaces have different accessibility limitations and also realities. And the question I think that needs to be grappled with is, what's a legitimate limitation, like you just can't do it, and what's well, we just haven't bothered to get rid of the fence. And I think that's an important part of the conversation. And I think that those were the big ones for me. We have Commissioner, who went first? Was it Commissioner Nelson? I think so, yeah. Nielsen, then Price. I wasn't watching.
Thank you guys for the run through, and I'm happy to have you back. This is a really important topic to be involved with, so thanks for keeping us involved as we go. I also really like in the presentation that you guys are showing, here's the process we're following, here's the timeline we're on. It really just helps bring context to these meetings to kind of understand, at what point do we need to put a bow on it and say, okay, good enough, let's, put it into practice, and where do we have more room to discuss and, pretty it up. So thanks for keeping that context as we go through these meetings. Talking to Councilmember Gutierrez about the open space element, he brought up the topic about how all our public schools are, he feels strongly that they should be part of our open space in some manner or form. I didn't see that kind of currently exists in the existing document or part of the goals. Is that, I'll say, in consideration or a possibility to incorporate our relationship with SB Unified's parcels?
Chair McGill and Commissioner Nelson, I think that's a great idea, and I like the idea of collaborating with the schools and talking to them about incorporating them as other resources that people can use and look towards. So I'd like to think about that some more and see how we can incorporate that.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
I thought I understood it as it was kind of already a done deal, but that the actual implementation wasn't going according to expectations, that there was some right for community members to use the fields and the courts and those types of things, but that whether that was due to COVID lockdowns or security or budget things, that just wasn't going. So this might be a way to really enshrine those parcels as part of our open space. Anyways, another question is when we do the update of this document, is this really our only time to update the asset list of all our inventory? Or can that happen off cycle in the 10, 15 years in between these updates? The map and, yeah.
That's a good question, Commissioner Nelson. I know as far as opening up as a amendment to our general plan, that's a whole process where it needs to be initiated by City Council and then go through review by both Planning Commission and City Council and formal adoption. So the inventory in that sense, once it's in the open space element, would be fairly stable, but I still don't see that we can't continually update maps and things as new open spaces, let's say, are acquired by the city, or at least keep, maybe Parks and Recreation has a way to keep more updated inventories. I don't know if you want to weigh in.
Chair McGill and Commissioner Nelson, I would say that if you think about the recommendations, so rather than the core elements of the document in terms of the policy per se, that we wouldn't be able to easily change. But if a recommendation says, update this list every 4 years,
That's all good. I particularly like the tweaks to the community gardens on vacant land and turning that more into like a pocket park, micro park. And if there's a way to use our open space element document to work closely with Public Works, and would be great, so that way every time they're doing a project for bubble outs and street widening and the things that they're already do, you can kind of get a win for free from an open space perspective to say, oh, if we put this, have an opportunity for Parks and Rec to bring in this beautiful sandstone rock, right, or whatever it may be that's low maintenance and things. But if we can put some language in there to strategize, how do we work with Public Works and their goals and their initiatives to get, a park on every block, maybe more so than a 10-minute walk, right? Even if our definition of open space is on a much more granular view. And then I thought then the coordination with the private parcels was an interesting one. Kind of seems challenging, but feels like a lofty goal, which is great to have. I hope that comes to fruition, and feels like it could be more than just large parcels with people with a lot of space. That maybe there's a way for, to work with the planning and zoning departments and for stuff downtown that says, hey, if you want to put, a dedicated bench or a certain amount of open space on your parcel in our high-density areas, that we might be able to take advantage of that as well, and maybe then property owner gets, some benefit for opting into the open space plan in some way. I'll take a pause there.
Hey, Commissioner Price was up ahead. Did you want to jump in?
yes, Chair McGill, I apologize. I just noticed this button, so I'll press this
It's like,
one.
I don't know what that label means.
Chair McGill and Commissioner Nielsen, one thing that I just want to highlight in the previous open space elements is that it speaks to open space in really broad terms, including just the view shed aspect of it. And so Highway 101, I believe, is currently considered open space. Not that you could sit on a bench and enjoy it, but that it creates visual, access to openings. And so I think as we think about the private parcels or what might be possible with private land, it's important to think about, even if the public can't enter that land, knowing that it is something you can see and appreciate, whether it's a beautiful stand of trees or some other open elements. There's a way to enjoy those spaces you can think about it in a kind of a really flexible, we have a lot of options for how you could enjoy those.
And if I may just sneak in on that last topic, because it was on my mind, it feels to me that this is going to become, that this update, there's going to be, what does State Street mean to this, and what its impact. We've gone through 5 years of using that as a promenade and doing different experiments, that I have to imagine there's going to be a lot of opinions that come out about, should State Street in its promenade form, or how does the open space element identify it as a potential asset, a current asset, and that's going to bring out, a healthy section. We talked about the freeway as, a built environment, but obviously we got a wonderful view corridor down to the ocean through State Street, and so I'm wondering if that was already been discussed with staff as what is State Street's role. There's the advisory committee, there's everything that's happening with council and how they're managing that, and is this a relevant place to touch on that topic?
Yeah, Chair McGill and Commissioner Nelson, actually, I really love this conversation because I think Jillian would agree. You're giving us ideas for more collaboration and talking to the State Street planners and Public Works Department as well to broaden that idea of open space. I know that one other area I've been thinking of are just our paseos, and maybe State Street's one big paseo, but we have all those paseos that we protect. We have the stairways in the Riviera that aren't really discussed anywhere, but I think they perform really interesting open space functions. As Jasmine mentioned, Highway 101 and some of the railroad right-of-way. So we can really broaden our definition of open space. There's certain categories per state law that we need to address and talk about in the document, but that doesn't limit us to these great ideas. So I appreciate this.
Thank you.
All right, Commissioner Price.
Thanks for the patience.
Thank you very much. No, excellent questions you brought up. That was very illuminating. A couple of things that the other commissioners have brought up that I wanted to highlight. I'm still in favor of KPIs, OKRs, some sort of dashboard we can track these. I believe you said it was every action has an individual deliverable on it. Again, so we can, help you and help remove tape and help you be successful in your plans here. As far as OP 1.5, I love the idea of removing the public gardens restriction and allowing us to be a lot more creative with these spaces. I understand the spirit of it. You want to be able to provide a public good, something that has a great impact in the community. But I do understand that it is costly and resource intensive, so I'm fully in support of that. I love what you said about State Street. I think that's something that I know there's a lot of churn and a lot of uncertainty around it, but completely selfishly, because in about, as soon as we break up from here, I'm going to go to State and host a couple of people from Germany, and who I'm really excited to show this space off, this giant passé we've created in the city, and I'd love a lot more attention and thought given to that area. I also was a little bit disappointed that you took out acquiring the Montecito Country Club out of this, because I think if we're going to be aggressive, we're going to shoot our shot, let's do it, because this is, it won't always be in its state. Time is a flat circle, it's an arc. So I discourage you from removing that lofty goal.
Yeah, thank you for that comment, and we can shoot for the sky, why not?
I mean, Muni has been wildly successful, so why not double down?
Are you back? Yeah.
Sorry.
No, that's all right.
I think I'm in favor of finding some appropriate connections to documents like the CWPP for sustainable management. I just want to make sure that doesn't end up in an unintended consequence, the cart driving the horse, or the cart before the horse situation. I would want to make sure that, we say in the open space element what that really means and where the limits of that are, so that we never get into a situation where, we lose beauty or whatever it is for a perceived threat, as real it may be, but that we find a way to collaborate and make it constructive rather than have some other document define what this is going to be or come to life in these spaces. So I think that depending on what language is chosen and how that comes to life, could put us in different realities, right? So whether it's a best intention to collaborate and incorporate, shared practices, or it says, hey, open space must follow that document's definitions, there are ways that could go wrong too.
And I'll just respond real quick and just let you know that I also worked on the CWPP, the latest iteration. I was a representative from the planning department on that, so I'm pretty familiar with it. And I think actually it was really great to hear the end of that presentation and talk about the collaboration that's been taking place. And so I want to make sure in our effort as well that we'll work closely with the fire department and with Ms. O'Connor, and kind of, she has actually brought in the discussion about balancing these areas for multiple purposes. So we'll continue that collaboration, and hopefully they'll all work really well together.
So this one might be a little less popular. But one of the things that I've kind of been reflecting on in my time on the commission is that we've had some conversations about some areas that are hard for the city to fund, hard to resource, don't have limited not a lot of people in there. I'm just wondering, and there's a lot of verbiage and language about acquisition of open space and making, it's kind of a get more, get more, get more. What's a little bit of a missing for me is I don't know if the prioritized isn't actually the right word, but it's kind of a needs assessment acquisition. I mean, just because it's available doesn't mean that we should get it. Just because somebody wants to bequeath it to the city doesn't mean that we should accept it, because some of these acceptances have turned out to be slightly poisoned chalices. And so it seems like there should be some, where do we honestly need acquisition, and we should target that where despite it, gosh, this looks beautiful, but it really doesn't make any sense, and we need to say no. I think that needs to be in there somewhere.
And Chair McGill, and Commissioners, if I could chime in quickly. It might be helpful to share I think that this document, just like we talked about making sure the CWPP really fits in with it, and the documents work well together, the same thing would be the case with the Parks and Recreation Master Plan. And I think that might be where this discussion comes in place. The Parks and Recreation Commission Master Plan will be coming to Commission. It's scheduled right now for July, so there'll be an opportunity to talk more about that in just a couple of months. But I think having a really broad brushstrokes with acquisition for the general plan is helpful, rather than get into details about why you might not want to acquire property. But I think maybe Rosie, if you want to add a little there.
Yeah, Chair McGill, I would agree that the open space element could be the broad, like you said, brushstrokes or framework for maybe general city policy that we want to acquire open space when it makes sense and fulfills a need. And then the master plan is where you would really get into the prioritization and probably doing needs assessments and looking at current and future population and what kind of ratio is appropriate for the amount of parks and open space per persons. And really the details would come down more to that document more than general plans, which are meant to be pretty much broad brush, 20, 30-year frameworks, if that makes sense.
Yeah, okay, sure does, thanks. Commissioner Nielsen.
Yeah, it may already exist. You can draw my attention to it if it does. I think we talked about it in March, but as far as there's a line on every parcel that says the open space starts here, but the accessibility is how do you get there and how do you get there safely? And, so I live pretty close to Alice Keck Memorial Gardens and Alameda, and I swear every day I almost watch a kid get run over because of the parking in between those two coming and going a busy street, and it makes me so anxious. So I'm wondering if there's an opportunity that the open space element can address how we do the safety of the infrastructure surrounding these parcels and these assets in this inventory, and whether it's very broad general language that just says, hey, it's our intent to maintain, safe access for these things, and we build from there, or if it's much more focused and targeted. But yeah, you got to be able to get to them and enjoy them in a healthy manner and go home in the same manner that you showed up in. And our streets and our sidewalks and our crossing and our lighting and all the public safety part around these parcels is important as well.
It's kind of part of that public works collaboration that you brought up earlier.
Yeah, Chair McGill and Commissioner Nelson, I agree. It is part of that public works collaboration, and we haven't really sat down and spoken with them yet, but I think it'd be good to talk to the transportation planners, see what, they may already have some ideas for these areas, like the one you specifically mentioned, or other parks and open spaces. And it is part of our job in this element to discuss access generally, when it comes down to really specific safety improvements and such, that might be a different process. But I think it's a good time to start talking with them about these issues, for sure.
All right. I think with that, this has been a great conversation. Really appreciate you bringing it to the table, and appreciate all the feedback from everybody as well. I think that that's great. It's good to have a good interactive conversation. I think we will look forward to seeing you again in the not-too-distant future. And you know you'll hear from us now. And I think with that, that takes us out, and we can go ahead and adjourn the meeting. Oh, Jasmine, sorry.
Chair McGill, Commissioners, just wanted to circle back to Commissioner Price's question in the director's report.
Sorry,
I
yes.
do have an answer. And so the question was about how the payment of $5 million would be made. And the agreement that we have with Ty Warner, the MOU, states that, this is a quote, "Donor will make the gift of $5 million by deposit into a bank account specified by the city within 20 days following final approval of the signed plan by ABR," so Architectural Board of Review.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, great. That's a really nice gift. All right, with that, we now are adjourned. See you all in June.